Coming up, help find alien life with SETILive, highlights the next big location app, or is it, WTF Pinterest, and QR condom codes. Yeah, you heard me right, QR condom codes. All that and more next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Social Hour is brought to you by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is The Social Hour with Sarah Lane and Amber MacArthur, episode 50, recorded Monday, March 5th, 2012. This episode of The Social Hour is brought to you by Hover.com. Hover is domain name registration and management that's simple. Upgrade to a premium domain and trade in your old clunkers. Visit hover.com/social hour. And by Audible.com. To download a free audiobook of your choice, go to audiblepodcast.com/social hour. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Social Hour from Petaluma, California at the TWiT World headquarters at the Brick House. I'm Sarah Lane.
That is the longest intro ever. I'm Amber MacArthur in Toronto, Ontario, Canada at the Canadian TWiT headquarters,
That's
which
right.
is a population of 1.
Well, it's a proud village.
It is. And I know there are lots of Canadians listening, so that makes us even bigger.
You know, Amber, I will say that, not that there weren't a lot of Canadian fans watching TWiT before, but I have noticed that since we started doing the show, I at least have more people publicly reaching out to me who are Canadian, who watch the show, who love the show. I know it's because of you, so to all the Canadians out there that have discovered us through Amber, thank you very much.
And they want you to come visit all over the place, Sarah. We need to get you to Canada.
I know. I've only been to Vancouver once, and that was about 10 years, over 10 years ago. It's crazy. I'm due for a visit.
It's true.
Absolutely.
One day. You'd love Toronto, I'm sure.
I know. I'm positive I would. I've always heard really good things about Toronto, that it's my kind of city. So,
Yeah,
Amber, this
like
morning at 5:30 a.m., I took to Twitter. I couldn't help myself. I rolled over in bed, I grabbed my phone, and I started tweeting. Why? Because there was an earthquake, and I had to tell the world that I was inconvenienced about it waking me up. Which is funny.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, it's funny because there were 20 other people that I follow, countless others, I'm sure, who did the same thing, but at least 20 other people that were tweeting and doing the exact same thing that I was. So I felt a little comfort in that. But then what happens is I didn't say anything like, wow, that was a crazy earthquake. I just said, all right, well, I'm awake now, type of thing. And I knew that people who felt the earthquake would get the joke. Well, or whatever you want to call it. It's not even really a joke. But many more people were like, why are you up so early? Hey, Sarah, everything okay?
It's so weird. It's so funny how, I mean, I had an experience last week where I had to take my son to the hospital. He's fine. But I went to Twitter, and literally Chris was like, why are you on Twitter? You know, it's midnight and you're in the hospital. And it's just like, I don't know, like there's something comforting about going onto Twitter where you know you have your own little social network and there are people there who will respond to you and it's all happening instantly. And in moments where you feel like you want to kind of reach out, it's just there's always people awake there, you know?
It's true. Great. Yes. And you think 5:30, hey, some people are up at 5:30, especially if they have kids. I usually am not on a Monday, whatever. But all my friends on the East Coast are probably either already at work or en route. And that's, you know, then there's, you know, the European folks. And so it's like, it's this time of the morning where it seems like, ungodly hour. But it's not really, because it's always noon somewhere. So, yeah, it was kind of just, I had to kind of laugh about that whole thing where it's like, I had to make myself put down Twitter, go back to sleep. Earthquake's over. Everybody's fine. And your son is okay.
Oh, yeah, he's totally fine. He just had a bad fall last Sunday, and he hit his head, and then he got sick afterwards, and they just told us to keep an eye on him, and then almost 48 hours he got sick again, and we're just really, really worried, obviously, because it's a head injury, and you just don't know. So we took him to the hospital, and she said basically the doctor was pretty determined that he had not food poisoning, but he had eaten something that had made him throw up, and it wasn't related at all to the Sunday fall. It was just really unfortunate timing. So he's fine. He's doing great, and the hospital was great. We were in really quickly, and it was just we were being very cautious, I guess, and it was scary, but he's doing awesome.
I'm so glad to hear that. I had seen some of your tweets, which of course do sound scary, especially because you don't exactly know what the backstory is. But yeah, like you said, it is comforting, especially when in times of crisis or just times where you know that a lot of people are going to be wanting to talk about what you're talking about, whether it's an event or an earthquake or a medical scare. Lots of social networks are. Twitter has something special, though.
It does. I mean, especially at those odd hours, like I said before. When I'm not necessarily going to pick up the phone and call all of my friends because they may not appreciate getting a call at 1 a.m. from me. So you just know there's always someone awake on Twitter who and it doesn't matter what time of day it is. So it is. There's just something very nice about that, and I can't say it's the same for all the social networks as far as my own experience.
Right. All right, well, let's get to some of the top stories that have happened over the last week since we were all here last. First one, Amber, this is a story you found. Massachusetts now deciding to give bloggers that are covering trials the same rights as traditional media, traditional journalists.
Yeah, this is interesting. And Sarah, I think we've had this discussion on the show a few times before. Are our bloggers considered journalists? Should they have the same rights? And so here is something that I think really is a precedent, something we haven't seen a lot of, where one state has decided that bloggers will have the same rights as mainstream media reporters who are covering trials. So they'll get the same sort of access that a newspaper reporter or a television reporter may get. However, at the end of the day, as the article points out, judges still have final say in terms of who gets into the courtrooms. But I think it definitely shows more equality for the blogger. And we know, I think blogging for many people has become such a professional thing, and lots of great content across so many amazing news blogs. So I think this is a +1 for the blogging community.
I do too, absolutely. There are certainly bloggers that, I don't know, maybe don't deserve to be in a court of law to be covering a trial, but there are other people who work for magazines. I mean, it's the medium is not as important as the message, right? If you are serious about your work, you have a following, you can prove that you're taking it all seriously. Doesn't make any sense to me that someone would be denied entry to cover something that was important just because they're using Squarespace rather than writing for Time or Us Weekly or, any of the more traditional publications that, at least I don't know if you'd call Us Weekly traditional, but certainly something that is being printed every week and a lot of people buy and read.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. As far as the new rules, news media will now cover organizations that regularly gather, prepare, photograph, record, write, edit, report, or publish news or information about matters of public interest. So you can see how broad that definition is, and to include so many other people producing content on the web. So I do think it's a positive move. I'm curious about how people maybe who are covering some of these trials feel about that, because obviously that just means, with people having more access, there's more competition, and we'll see how things fare and if other states follow suit.
Joda Tech in chat says, is someone who tweets a blogger? Technically, blogging and tweeting, in my opinion, are different things, but there are certainly people who are, I would consider, absolutely top-tier journalists who disseminate a lot of information via Twitter. So I don't know that I'd say, well, you're a blogger as long as you're tweeting, and that means that you're technically a journalist. Not necessarily. But it's certainly a way to be able to inform people of news.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I guess it's just in many respects, it's been called sort of microblogging, so a different type of blogging, just kind of the idea of short form blogging. So, I would say it is, a form of, like you said, of pushing out information. So if someone just tweets content and reports on Twitter, are they a blogger? I don't know. Maybe a microblogger. That's a really good question.
It is a good question, and if there are opinions, let us know so we can include your opinions as well. This read write web that I always have to say slowly so that I don't mess it up. The article also included a little tidbit that I didn't even really realize was going on, which I guess is when a lot of press is covering a particular a court case. And maybe it's, I don't know, some kind of sensationalist. A lot of people are following it. Tends to be an agreement between the photographers, people who are taking pictures of the event, that one photographer will kind of be point photog for the event and will agree to license the photos to all the other publications. It probably just keeps things a little bit more civil and less crazy, and everyone kind of gets the photos that they need. And this would also apply to bloggers. They would be able to be in that pool of people who may get the rights to have the photos and then have others license them from them, which that brings in the whole idea of different revenue streams and I guess just being taken seriously.
Yeah, really interesting. Also, another interesting news tidbit that took place over the past week or so. Obviously, TED happened recently. A lot of news coming out of that as far as new speeches on TED. I love watching all of the TED Talks. There are so many great videos that come out of that event. This was kind of a quirky one that I found on BBC's website about a new website where you can go and a bunch of people can come together to crowdsource alien life. It's kind of fun and very interesting. The site itself is actually pretty cool, Sarah. I don't know if you had a chance to take a peek.
Yeah, I did. I like the idea, too, that this is... my first reaction was, oh, yeah, SETI at home. We used to do this with the screensavers. I mean, screensavers on computers. To me, screensavers sometimes means a television show. That's different. But screensavers, when you would go away from your computer for a while, you could choose to engage your computer into a processing power, really, for the SETI at Home project. But once I started to read this particular project, I realized, oh, this is different because what it sounds like a lot of scientists have realized is there are messages coming in that might be missed by a machine. That's something that's trying to pick up signals algorithmically, because there is already so much noise that the machine side of it has gotten good at filtering out a lot of that stuff that's coming from Earth, Wi-Fi signals and all sorts of stuff, that we might actually be missing actual extraterrestrial messages that maybe you and I, if we were just paying a little bit of attention, would say, wait, this seems a little off. Let me make a note of this. Let me alert somebody.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So the project is being run by Dr. Gillian Tarter. And in this article on BBC, she says they're hoping that an army of volunteers can help us deal with these crowded frequency bands, like you mentioned, that confuse machines. And by doing this in real time, there are some great opportunities for volunteers to come together and discover perhaps alien life. So I'm sure there are people who are listening and maybe have participated or checked out this site before. I think it's just is it SETILive? Is that? Let me just double check.
Chad, is it SETILive.org? Yes, SETILive.org. We'll of course have that link in our show notes as well as this BBC article that talks a little bit about the thinking behind the project and who's involved. And it's a really cool website. These folks are great. And wouldn't you like to be responsible for hearing that alien? Of course you would. So you want to join this project. It's for the greater good. Jodie Foster does it. You can too.
Yeah, you can too. I think the thing that I was so impressed with is the layout of the site. Like you mentioned, Sarah, it's absolutely beautiful, really kind of fluid design. And you can kind of, even if you're not necessarily interested in alien life, you can get in there and kind of click around and find out some interesting things. And a pretty big community of people in the thousands who are currently participating.
Yeah, absolutely. So last week, it's funny, last Thursday on iPad Today, Leo and I were talking about how Apple was making a big deal about how the iTunes App Store was reaching 25 billion downloads. I don't know, like 25 is, maybe they had a lot of fanfare for 20. I don't really remember that. But we thought, they're probably timing it because they know roughly how many people are going to be downloading apps per day on average at this point, so that they can time it with the iPad 3 announcement, which of course is in a couple of days, Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific. Well, we were wrong because they hit 25 billion over the weekend, probably because since they were close enough, a lot of people, at least in part, contributed to maybe the numbers going up a little bit, because the whole point was whoever downloaded the 25 billionth app from the App Store got a $10,000 gift certificate. $10,000. Wow, that'll get you a lot of apps. It turns out
a lot of apps.
A lot of apps. Yes. Chun-Li Fu of Qingdao, China. I hope I'm saying that right. Starts with a Q. Qingdao downloaded an application called What's My Water Free. So I guess there's a What's My Water paid edition from the App Store. Won a $10,000 iTunes gift card for downloading the 25 billionth app. And for a little context, the App Store crossed the 10 billionth mark just over a year ago, January 2011. 15 billionth app downloaded in July 2011. So we were up, another, 10 billion from just under a year ago. So that's a lot of apps.
That is a lot of apps. I just wondering if you had a $10,000 in money on iTunes for apps, would you ever be able to spend that, Sarah? I mean, maybe you could.
Oh, of course. Well, okay, yeah. Well, that's a good question. I mean, it is a gift card for iTunes in general. So yeah, with apps, you could. Well, you could even go for like really expensive apps. The most expensive diamond encrusted app. Those silly ones that are like $1 million type of a thing. But you could also buy a lot of music. You could buy a bunch of movies. I mean, you could go crazy. It would be nice to have a $10,000 credit in iTunes. That's for sure.
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet. I think maybe you could spend it, but it would take a while, I think.
Yeah. I think that's the whole point. It's a really cool gift for being that 25 billionth person. So congratulations to you, Chun-Li Fu. Definitely let us know everything that you buy over the next few months.
Everything, Sarah? Are you sure you really want to ask for that?
What's my water free? Or where's my water? I'm curious. I wonder how many people will download Where's My Water just because they know that it was the app that got somebody over the 25 billionth mark.
Yeah, that's a good point. As if it doesn't have enough success already, though. Right. Too bad it couldn't have been some obscure app, right, that he downloaded.
Oh, so it looks like it's like a puzzle game.
Yeah, it's super popular. It's this
is something that
Disney,
you've heard of. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'm out of it.
Well, Disney created this app, and it's interesting because I think it's an alligator in the app. He is the first animated character that Disney has created that isn't in like a movie or a TV show. So he's an app-only character.
I see. All right. Yeah, a lot of people in the chat are saying, well, yeah, we know this game. This is not some obscure game. It's a Disney game. But it's an app. Yeah, all right. All right, fine. I'll download it. We'll download it, play it on Thursday for iPad today. But yeah, so congratulations. People really do win when it comes to Apple every once in a while. A quick reminder that we record this show, The Social Hour, live on Mondays, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Our website, if you ever miss an episode or we talk about some links and you wonder what that SETI link was or who was that person that got the 25 billionth app, all the information on all of our episodes are at twit.tv/TSH. So if you say, for example, well, episode 50 is going well, but I didn't watch episode 49. Maybe that was a good one too. You click in there, you see that we had our guest. We had a really cool guest, Dave Carroll, who was a lot of fun to talk to last week. And obviously links to where you can find him, a little bit more about him, and then all the links that we talked about on the show. And then, as I mentioned earlier in the show, maybe it was before the show, we've got comment areas for specific episode pages. So if you've got questions or you want to take the conversation a little bit farther, this is a really good place to talk to us and each other. And Amber and I talked a little bit last week about trying to just figure out how to engage our various social networks. Google Plus, for example. There's obviously Facebook, but Twitter is something where you and we've got our own Twitter accounts, and we try to tell people when the show's happening. But what's the hashtag that we decided to use? Social Hour?
Yeah, just Social Hour. Also in the video, you could see things for listeners who haven't checked out the video. Like, for example, on this show, my video quality has increased dramatically over the past few minutes because one of our viewers, Marianne Lister, wrote me an email and says, why is your video so bad? It's usually not this bad, but I forgot to plug in my HD webcam, so it has gotten a lot better. So those are the type of little weird things that you get in video that you don't necessarily get in the audio version.
Right.
And thank you, Marianne.
And if you're watching live, you can be directly responsible for making the show better in real time as we record it live. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you very much. I like your polka dots, by the way, Amber. I have a shirt just like that. It would have been awesome if I wore
Sarah,
it.
you have more than just stripes?
Yes, I'm also a fan of polka dots.
Yes. I kind of, not that this is why sometimes, and someone said this to me the other day, it's very rare that you get two women talking tech. And every once in a while, I think it's kind of cool because, we get to all of a sudden have conversations about things like this, Sarah. About, clothing and random things, hair, whatever it might be. Right. And then we go straight back into tech. But yes, I was afraid of polka dots for many years, and I've just opened up to them. So
they
I
are
appreciate the compliment.
I love the polka dot. Yeah, isn't that funny? It's like, hey, my webcam quality got better. By the way, I love those polka dots.
Now they're in HD.
All right. You can always email us at thesocialhour@twit.tv as well. If Twitter scares you and you don't want to be in our episode comments, you just email us privately and tell us your troubles. We're here to help. All right. Before we get any farther into some of our other stories, and we have a cool spotlight. It's probably an app that you'd heard of. And if you haven't, happy to tell you about it for the first time. But first, let's thank Hover for sponsoring this episode of The Social Hour. Hover's got a couple cool things that they're willing to help you out with right now. Monday morning, still waking up in my head. Premium domains and clunker trade-ins. So we'll start with premium domains. They're kind of exactly how they sound. There are certain domains out there that are going to be worth more money because they're kind of a clever spelling, or they use really common words, or there's something where maybe you have a great idea for a business, a company, a photography site, a whatever, and you want a domain that's going to reflect your company, that's going to be easy for people to remember, that's going to be catchy, that sort of thing. For example, it looks like Chad went searching for something polka dot related. Polkadots.org. Now that's a pretty catchy domain. It's not as cheap as some of the other domains because it's something that is coveted by folks. So Hover is really good about showing those little stars and general costs next to some of those domains. Cost a little bit more, but are good for people who don't want to just gobble up a domain for no reason. You have a really specific reason to want a specific domain. As you can see, the costs vary pretty wildly. I mean, some of the premium domains, $450. Well, that's a lot less than $2,600, but it depends on what you want. So those are premium domains at Hover, and they're really, really easy to search for. Clunker domains are something else entirely. Sometimes you might have domains that you registered or you renewed at Hover, and you want to upgrade your domain. Hover will take your old domains back. So it's kind of like here, let me trade in my clunker car for that shiny new convertible Mercedes of domains. Hover will credit everything that you spent on your old clunker domain with Hover. The original registration fee, any renewal fees, that can be extremely helpful because anybody who's bought up a few domains and auto renewal and wanting to, have as many as you might need for future projects knows that it can get expensive and it can get kind of messy, and it's sort of a part-time job managing some of that stuff. I'm actually up for renewal really soon, and it's not something that I can ignore. You kind of gotta take care of that stuff or you'll lose them. So the clunker page is easy to find if you just go to hover.com. They have a help section that'll tell you a little bit more about how the clunker domains work. So you've got quite a few choices at Hover. By the way, you can just buy a regular domain at Hover too. If you've got something that's not a premium domain, you don't have any clunker domains, maybe you've never even bought a domain before. If you just go to hover.com/social hour, that's our special little URL so that they know that you came through us. You can look for any domain you'd like. Managed domains, it's a very nice website, very easy. No kind of like hidden fees that you find out about afterwards. It's a really, really easy way to buy and manage domains. And if you use the offer code Social Hour, you'll get 10% off of a regular domain, not a premium domain, but any regular domain that you buy through us using the offer code Social Hour, 10% off. So thank you so much to Hover for sponsoring our episode. and look forward to buying my next domain with them. Amber, I know that you're a Hover fan as well.
I love them. And you want to know, I have kind of an interesting little factoid that is great for the end of this advertisement. You may or may not know this, Sarah, but as you mentioned, the Hover website is extremely user-friendly, great design. It also leads to great customer service. But what you might not know is that the person who designed this site, his name's Tony Shibono from a company called Archetype in Toronto. He was involved in the initial design of it, but he also designed the recent version of the TWiT.tv website, which was up for quite a few years. He's one of the best designers I've ever met before. So just a little factoid there.
That is such a good tidbit. I didn't even know that.
I know.
I don't know how, but yeah, thanks. Good
Yeah,
trivia.
just a little factoid. Yeah, thanks.
Good trivia.
I'll be back next week with more.
Good. Thank you. I love TWiT trivia. In fact, well, that's another. I have this idea for a show. It's like you could do a whole show on trivia, and then we could have
great idea.
We could have a separate section for just TWiT trivia, because people who have obviously been watching and listening to TWiT for years would know a lot of those answers. Yeah, it's my next big thing. Yeah, I need a domain for that. I'm going to go to Hover and get one of the premium domains.
Better get it soon before someone else takes it.
For my trivia show. Darn it, now it's out there. Don't steal my idea.
I'll watch, Sarah.
Okay, good. All right, so the spotlight this week, we mentioned Highlight earlier in the show. Highlight is gotten a lot of attention recently. It's an app, and it requires you to log in via Facebook. So if that doesn't turn you away, then I'll show you a little bit more about it. And the reason I think that this is a really good time to talk about Highlight is because we're coming up to South by Southwest. I'm going to leave for Austin on Friday, and this is one of those apps where I think we've gotten a little bit away from apps launching at South by, because there are a lot more apps, there are a lot more location-based apps, and it's really hard to kind of rise to the top of a bunch of apps that are trying to get attention. But there are apps that will prove very invaluable while you're in an event-based location where people are moving around a lot, and there's a lot of different events, and people kind of cluster together. It's why Foursquare worked out so well back in the day, and even Twitter. 5 years ago, Twitter was the big thing at South by Southwest. So this is Highlight, and I'm running it on my phone. And what you can sort of see here, and it's a little bit hard to read, but you get the idea, is a lot of people are showing up here as being nearby to me today. So I don't want to screw with anybody's privacy here, but what it is like, so Richard Kirby, for example, I don't know him, but I have 2 mutual friends on Facebook to him, and we also have one thing in common. Well, what's that thing? So these are the sorts of things that you like publicly on Facebook. Turns out that that's TechCrunch. Okay, well, already I'm sort of like, all right, well, we've got a couple friends in common. One of my friends hasn't even joined Highlight yet, so I could go ahead and invite Morgan. She actually works at Foursquare. It's kind of funny. Spencer, another friend of mine. But let's say that we didn't have any friends in common. We might just have TechCrunch in common. Now, if TechCrunch wasn't such a big property that a lot of people have liked as a page on Facebook, it might be a little bit more meaningful to me that Richard and I might, be good friends if we got to know each other a little bit better and we happen to be in close proximity with one another. So that's something that I feel like Highlight should probably work on a little bit, as far as what you have in common with people and why they end up showing up in your feed. By the way, you might say, well, how does Highlight know that you and Richard are close to each other? Does it have anything to do with checking in somewhere? No, it's actually just it's using your GPS location. So this is something that people have complained is a bit of a battery drain, because it's constantly pinging to make sure it understands where you are. So this is like going on in the background. I don't even have to have Highlight open, because Highlight is working in the background trying to figure out who I am near. And, maybe Richard Kirby and I, maybe we don't have enough in common. Maybe it's not the sort of thing that I'd ever want to use to introduce myself to him. But what if I started noticing, gosh, Richard and I are like always at the same cafe. I mean, we're always there every Thursday and Friday. He knows a couple of my friends. I think it might be him. Maybe I'll say hello, and maybe we'll, have a good conversation. Or maybe I've noticed that he's because you can have little status updates in here. He said drinks. That's his latest status update. So maybe he's the kind of person who likes to get a tasty beverage in my neighborhood. I'm not sure. So that might help me to try to figure out, if we're meant to be buddies or not. The reason this is going to, I think, help a lot at South by Southwest is because you will be able to get a lot of information on who's nearby you. The interactive portion of South by Southwest is the part that I'm going to, which is a lot of people who are in the tech/geek space. I already have a lot in common with a lot more people in the vicinity than I would normally, even in San Francisco. So I kind of like the idea of this. Now, of course, I actually wrote the CEO of Highlight last night and said, I really don't want to get push notifications when, let's say, Amber signs up for Highlight. I don't need to know that Amber's now using the service, and that's something that they do. I just want to know if she's nearby, so that we can decide if we want to go face to face or not. And he wrote me back and said that they're working on it. So I think that this is a good start. But Amber, I know that you've expressed concerns with kind of that location-based service in the past. Does this raise any red flags for you?
Well, I actually turn off all GPS abilities on my phone as far as any location services that try to, or any services that I try to actually access your location information. That's just my choice personally. However, I would see, like you said, if I was going to a specific event where Highlight would be really handy, whether it's South by Southwest or a conference that was happening closer to where I live, whatever it might be, really helpful to find out people who were there. So I see it more as almost an event app in some ways than generally kind of day to day, right? Some people are okay with the location stuff. I tend to be a little more hesitant, which is just bizarre because I usually am pretty good with all of the other social tools. But when it gets down to your specific location, I always get a little weirded out. Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely not for everybody. And again, there are always going to be those people who watch a demo like this and say, who needs to meet so many people? I mean, are people really going to approach somebody at a nearby table because you think that it's the person that, you've been pinged about on Highlight and you kind of have friends? And no, this is obviously not for everybody. And I don't even know how much it is for me because I have enough Facebook friends, not too many, but I definitely have a decent number of Facebook friends that I've either met very briefly, once or twice, don't really know them very well, certainly don't know their other friends, or I've never met them at all. For whatever reason, we just have become friends. Amber, I know that, especially in the beginning days of Facebook, we all did a little bit too much of that. So that's the sort of thing where it's like, if it's a friend of a friend that is not so close to me in the first place, then it's hard to say that they've been vouched for, I guess. And we're busy people, and we don't all have time to just be meeting a bunch of new people every day. But I am curious to see how this does at South by Southwest. South by Southwest itself is notoriously really bad for phone service because there are too many people on their phones. So I'm on Verizon, so I had a little bit better luck than the AT&T folks last year. But I see it possibly having a big growth spurt there.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think it makes a lot of sense at specific locations. Hey, Sarah, can I just ask you a question? Yeah. When you go to the Highlight website, I know we just showed the homepage. Is it all fuzzy, the actual logo, or I guess it's just the name of the company, or is it just me?
No, it's not just you, and it's the same logo that that'll launch when you launch the app on your phone. And my first reaction was, oh my gosh, why would they do that? Because it's kind of got that 3D without the glasses.
It hurts your eyes.
It hurts your eyes. I don't know.
I went on their site and then I left because I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know why if it's just me, but terrible font. They need some help from Archetype.
They do. I know it's on purpose. I know it's not a mistake. That's what it's supposed to look like. But I never really like a logo that hurts. If the logo hurts, I don't know who's getting anything out of that.
Logos should not hurt people. That's not a good first step.
Don't hurt me with your logo. I won't want to use it. But otherwise, Highlight's totally free. So if it appeals to you, definitely check it out. I've gotten a kick out of. I live in a pretty dense neighborhood, and so there are obviously a lot of people who are showing up on my feed. And some of them, I don't know any of these people yet, but some of them, because your Facebook bio gets pulled into Highlight because you're using Facebook Connect to sign up. I go, oh, That's interesting. I like that company. I'd probably like that guy or that gal. So there's something there. And it's nice that it works passively, so you're not always having to be checking in all the time, because some people don't like doing that either.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Sarah. So for our social tip, I have a service that I don't know why. When I saw this, I thought, oh, Sarah's going to love this. And I don't know why. It was just a gut feeling. The service is called Dropmark. I discovered it on lifehacker.com. And it's a very collaborative tool that allows you to share files with other people. At first, I kind of think of it kind of like a little bit like Dropbox, except it's much more visual, and you can do a lot more with the content that you're uploading there. So you upload pictures, for example, a really slick interface, and then you could potentially turn all those pictures into sort of an on-the-fly presentation where you're walking through it, and you can save web content, entire websites, music, videos, all those types of things. There's also a really neat extension that will allow you to pull up all of your content quickly if you're using Chrome, and maybe Firefox works as well. So it's free for up to 250 megabytes, and you can pay $48 for the year for the 25 gig upgrade. Again, it was just the ease of use when I signed up for the service, and just dragging different files there, checking them out, particularly photos. It looked really, really slick.
I love the idea of this. I'm signing up right now. You can sign up with your username, so you have a special, nice little URL. I'm gonna try for saralane.dropmark.com. Hopefully nobody else has taken that yet. I'll go ahead and choose the basic service, the pro service, $4 a month, or $48 a year for a year subscription. Of course, my computer slows down whenever we're doing this show because I'm pulling the visual out. But, here we are. Okay. So I just drop files here. Chad, if you want to look at my screen, here's the interface when you first launch it for the first time. So here I am. That is actually my, what is that pulling from? Well, I guess it's my Facebook, what is that actually? Why is that pulling that image? That's something that used to be a Facebook profile picture, but I've changed it since then. Anyway, I'm not exactly sure about that. But so I can create a new collection. If I have a variety of collections, I can find them here. I can add a file or text in my settings area. Well, this is a collection that I've just added. So obviously I'm just learning about this in real time, but I do have to say, Dropbox has been invaluable to me in so many ways, but you wouldn't call it a very visual program.
No, not at all. And I think because you're able to easily share with this service, Dropmark, you can share really easily. You can make your content public. Like I mentioned, you can even add music. So let's say you went to South by Southwest and you started a set of files that you called South by Southwest. You put a bunch of photos in there, and then you could add music, and then you could share it as kind of a presentation. So there's a lot more to do with it than simply share your files. Again, it is that visual kind of collaboration. You can work with other people, and just a lot more about that sharing and kind of social experience than something like Dropbox, which is usually kind of one-on-one.
Yeah, this is great. I love this. So if I wanted to share these 4 pictures really easily with you, Amber, this would be a great way to do this. I could just go ahead and take you to this particular collection, send you the link or what have you. And these files I could go ahead and 95472. That's my old zip code. That's why I took a picture of that cork. But all of these files, I could easily share them with you in Dropbox as well. But it's nice to have these little thumbnails, and you can click the image and have it expand, so you get a better idea of what that picture was of. I love this. It's really nice.
It's really slick. I think anything, and this is just, it kind of shows you how I have absolutely no patience, but if I sign up for a service and within 15 seconds can figure out totally how to use it, can easily start using it, I'm a huge fan, and I would put this into the category. And every, that happens every couple of weeks I find something like this. So A+ for them in terms of the design of it and the sharing capabilities as well.
Especially since this is a really crowded market.
It sure is, yeah.
The cloud storage, every company has something, whether it's Google and Apple, they've got their services, and you can do a certain amount of things for free, but then you have to pay for more robust storage. Dropbox as well, Box.net, Dropmark, you've got your first 250 megabytes for free. And then it seems to me like, I don't even want to say that any of these services are really better than each other, because none are a direct competitor. They all do things a little bit differently. But it's nice to have choices and figure out, is $48 a year worth it to you to go ahead and upgrade on something like Dropmark? If you like the interface, you trust the company, your files feel safe, Amber and I have an easy time collaborating, then it seems worth it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so a fun little service that is free, or you can get the pro version.
Thank you, Amber. That's a good social tip. All right, let's move on to some Google Plus news. We've talked about this before in the past, but according to yet another article, it sounds like Google Plus is not really in the same playing field as Facebook, Twitter, or even MySpace.
Ooh, MySpace. Haven't heard that name for a long time, Sarah.
Yeah. So the gist of this, and something that we talked about Tech News Today last week, and we all kind of kicked around the idea of how much do we all use Google Plus? Does it really matter that Google Plus might not have the kind of numbers that something that Facebook has, as long as you are getting good information, you're getting good engagement, you feel like you've curated your own really good community on Google Plus? And for me, there is something about momentum and feeling like it's a happening place that does affect me when I feel like I throw out something on Google Plus and I don't know, it's just I don't feel like I'm getting a good response. It makes me kind of tend to not want to be there as much. And you could say something like, well, what about Path? Path is only for a smaller group of people. It's not all about the bigger the better. But that's the sort of service that's like that on purpose. It's supposed to be a smaller type of a conversation between a smaller number of people. Something like Google Plus, I don't know. I guess I feel like if there are fewer people there, then psychologically I feel like there's something wrong with it. You know, like it's not working.
Like you're not playing in like the cool space, you know? Something
like that. I know I'm not alone, because that's sometimes why networks make it or break it. But it is interesting to hear something like MySpace. I know that they have fewer registered viewers than Google Plus. But according to, this is a data report by ComScore for anybody who's like, how do you know that all this stuff happens? This is a report that came out in January. Folks who are participating in MySpace end up staying longer. Their sessions are longer. They've got just more engagement overall, even though there are fewer people going there total.
It's so interesting. You know, the one thing I find about Google Plus, and I feel like I have sort of a great little circle who I generally share with, you know, about 100, 150 people. And, well, I share publicly, but also get content from about 100 or 150 people. I feel like the quality of content of the people I'm following is a lot better than any other social network where I see the same people posting. I think it's just the depth of that content. So it almost seems like it's one of those social networks where it's not flippant in the sense that it's not, you know, short little tidbits. It's not like Pinterest is not, you know, a bunch of different photos, but it has its place for a certain community, but just maybe it's not that massive community. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't go there. I mean, I go there once a day or twice a day, but it's not like I consume the content there. But when I do go there, I feel like the quality is definitely there. I don't know. That's just my own experience. But maybe that's not what people are looking for, or maybe it's, you know, it's too all over the place for most people. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Google Plus, they had these crazy sign-up numbers, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that people use Google properties in general, whether it's Gmail or YouTube. I mean, there are all sorts of things that you can do under the Google umbrella that, you know, are wildly different, and Google Plus is just one of those properties. So signing up for Google Plus doesn't mean that you're an active participant at all. But neither does signing up for Facebook. However, Facebook has a very, very, very active group of users. The same study, you know, with Google Plus, I think it was just a small number of minutes. Once you were on a Google Plus page, you just might not stay very long. Maybe it's just checking the stream real quick. In the same, you know, 30 days, let's say, on Facebook, it would be hours as compared to minutes type of thing. So Facebook is just one of those places. Then again, walled garden. it's easier to stay within Facebook for a while, and then you go back out into the real world where Google feels a little bit more of that, where you're in and out of Google, you're searching from within Google, maybe Google Plus search results are showing up here and there, but you're not necessarily going to Google Plus and then hanging out all day and then leaving the way that people do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are, and it seems like there's almost like these little communities within Google Plus. Like I know the Hangout community people, including some news anchors in the U.S. and individuals who are doing Hangouts all the time on Google Plus, it's really slick technology. I think that's where it gets more interesting as far as how people are using the service. But again, maybe not the numbers that everybody expected. And speaking of Hangouts, there is an article on Read Write Web. Google Plus makes itself look silly with Hangout cat masks. So now on Google Plus, if you're doing a Hangout, you will be able to add animal masks to your Hangout. So basically, you will be able to add a mask over your face to be a cat, a bear, I don't know what other animals, but kind of a fun, quirky thing. That I guess the article, it was written by a guy named John Mitchell. He's not a fan of this. He thinks it's absolutely ridiculous and silly. And I think I would probably think the same thing, Sarah, if I didn't have a 3-year-old who I know would absolutely think this is the coolest thing in the world. So, I don't know. Mixed feelings on this one.
Yeah. Wow. Where do I start? So you bring up the kid thing, and that is a really good point, because my first reaction is, who would ever want to do this more than once? This is the sort of thing where it's like, remember in... I don't even know if they offer this anymore. Was it even called Photo Booth initially? Where you could put yourself in front of the Eiffel Tower. Or on a roller coaster from within this Mac software.
Or all those special distorted effects, right?
Yeah, and it's just like everyone's probably played around with that once, maybe twice, but not over and over. So this sort of thing seems very gimmicky, especially since Hangouts, to me, are best when they're spun as this is a legitimate way to do a remote conference, or have a remote real conversation with either people you know or people that you don't. They can be very sophisticated, and the technology is really cool. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how animal masks is going to help me feel any more about that. I mean, I think it just sort of promotes more silliness, which I don't feel like helps the legitimacy of a service like this. But maybe that's just me, I don't know, not having a very good sense of humor.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think it's fun for kids, but then how many kids are really using Google Plus Hangouts all the time? I know some families are starting to use it. It seems like more and more. It's funny, though, when you hear about Google Plus in the media, the last thing I heard was about President Barack Obama using Google Plus for a Hangout, and then I see the cat masks. Somehow it doesn't quite fit. Nonetheless, like I said, I think some kids and maybe families would think it was fun as sort of a one-off. Maybe it's their way of trying to get families using it and get people who are using it currently to think about involving their kids and having Hangout chats, which I do with my brother and his kids, and it works out really, really well. So maybe they're just trying to capture that different audience and are struggling a little bit. And so there you have the masks.
Maybe you're right. Maybe this is one of those 20% projects that somebody within Google put together, and they thought, we would love for Google Plus not to be thought of like just the geek network. I know it's not. People are using Google Plus that aren't geeks, but you do hear that. And sometimes it's sort of a knock against Google Plus that it doesn't seem like it's a network for everybody. It's more for people who are in the tech scene. I know that's why some of my less techie friends have shied away from it, because they don't really feel like it's a place for them. Many of them have kids. They'd probably love this, actually.
Sarah, I'm kind of disappointed because I really could see you with that cat mask on.
I know. Well, I love the idea of it. I just don't know who would want to participate in a cat mask hangout with me.
So, Sarah, you know what? What are we going to have to do to try to get you in a cat mask on a Google Plus hangout one day?
Oh, it could be today. I'm happy to do it right after the show ends. I just, I'm thinking of the user base in general. Those other 90 million or so
It's true. It's true. All right. So next up, we talked a lot about Pinterest on the show. And this is a service, one of a few that I've seen sort of floating around that is kind of like clout for Pinterest. So the idea that it's a service that can measure your influence on one of the most popular social networks lately, Pinterest. And it looks like Pin Clout, a service that started recently, has just received a cease and desist letter from Clout. So Clout's not happy with what they're doing. Pin Clout is open to changing their name and still trying to service that Pinterest community. Interestingly, I also found another service called Pin Puff that is sort of like Clout for Pinterest too, and it shows you with Pinterest how quickly it's growing and how many people are trying to sort of get a bite of that and add services like this to figure out your influence on Pinterest.
Well, so Pinterest is it is just, you can't get away from Pinterest these days, for better, for worse. And in fact, I have a couple other little fun Pinterest tidbits that we'll get to in a minute. But focusing a little bit on Clout, the service Clout, KLOUT.com. I've stopped paying attention to Clout. I'm not really a fan of Clout. For anybody who has missed our coverage of Clout in the past, it is sort of a barometer of how popular you are online based on how many people follow you on Twitter, of the people that you follow, how many follow you back. If Amber has a lot of followers and she replies me, that would kind of give me more clout because it would prove that people who are kind of important and special are paying attention to me, that sort of stuff. It's not just Twitter. It applies to as many social networks as once you have an account you want to connect it to. And there are a few. And then they have rewards for getting points here and there for checking in and adding services and this and that. The reason that I'm not a huge fan of Clout is because I feel like any service that changes normal behavior online in order to get the best score possible is just dangerous. I don't know, it just makes people act unnaturally, and I need less of that and more of natural reaction because we're already trying to be as natural as possible using these tools. Not everybody, but I certainly am, and I want to feel like Amber would be replying to me for the right reasons, not because there was some sort of a gaming something going on behind the scenes where you might get more points for doing that sort of thing. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Do you?
I do. I've never been a huge fan of Clout because I feel like it's not entirely accurate. Or, for example, I know at one point when I was checking my Clout score, this was many months ago, it said that I was an expert in, I think, hockey. I don't think I've watched hockey in 12 years. I'm sorry, my dear Canadian friends, but I would not call myself an expert at all in that particular sport. But I just feel like it's not that accurate. And I also think that when companies are taking it really, really seriously and they're trying to find influencers and then, trying to reach out to them, it's just, I think you're right. People can kind of game the system a little bit. There are people who really, really put a lot of stake in their Clout score and try hard to increase that score. And inevitably, it works. And you kind of lose that authenticity a little bit.
Yeah. So this, going back to Pin Clout, which is sort of the same idea because Pinterest has a lot of users, has a lot of attention right now, and it's sort of that who are the stars of Pinterest type of a thing. That's the whole idea behind Pin Clout. Well, when you look at Pin Clout's logo, it looks a lot like Pinterest's logo. Certainly doesn't look like Clout. Obviously, Clout is not spelled with a K the way that it is at Clout.com. And Clout itself is a word.
Yeah.
Clout is a word that existed long before Clout with a K, the service, came up with a way to give us all points for our activity online. So I tend to think, hey, Clout with a K, you're kind of being bullies about this. You didn't come up with some sort of a rating system. You didn't come up with the term. And it seems a little silly to me. Then again, if they feel threatened at all, like people would want to participate in something that's Clout related, but Pinterest, because Pinterest has a lot of momentum right now, these are the sorts of reasons that companies have to change their name, but they could think of something else.
Yeah, they'll think of something else and kind of reinvent themselves. But it's just funny when I was researching this and I found out there were a few different services like this, and just a surprise to see them rise up that quickly.
It says Chris Fay, Pin Clout co-founder, said he was really surprised to get a cease and desist from Clout with a K. He says they advice from their lawyer that it's just easier to change the name rather than go through something that's possibly a long/costly legal fight, which is true. I think that happens, especially with a lot of these small companies. I mean, this is a company that's been launched publicly for about a week, and you're to get a cease and desist from another company, and it's like, if you can just come up with a different name and not have to spend the first 6 months of your release into the world fighting some other company, oftentimes, for better or for worse, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. All right, Sarah, so we have a couple of great emails from our viewers and listeners. And do you want me to take the first one and you do the second one?
Yeah, sure.
Work for you? Okay, so the first one is from Chuck, and he says, on the topic of bookmarking Google Plus posts into circles, which was our social tip for last week, a really neat way to do that we mentioned on the show, episode 49. Chuck says he's also learned of a neat trick to bookmark posts to Evernote. Just grab the Evernote email, create it specifically for your account, which is used to email stuff to your Evernote account, and create a circle with just this email. He calls his Evernote for obvious reasons. And when you see a post you like, simply share it with that circle, and voila, it sends it to your Evernote account. This is kind of cool. Easy as pie. Hope you like this nifty trick.
Chuck, thank you so much. That's great. I think, there are a few different services that I can think of that will give you a nice little personalized email address. Posterous comes to mind too, as if you knew your Posterous email, you could just email anything you wanted to yourself, and it would that's how you could save things to Posterous, one of many ways. So it's kind of a nice little trick within Google Plus, especially for people who are like, maybe this whole circle functionality isn't really working for me, or I wish there was more of a reason to put another circle together. If you're a big Evernote user and you want to be able to be within Google Plus and be saving stuff through Evernote using that email address, your specific Evernote email address, you can use Google Plus as a tool, and you could either share it with other people or not. But I love this.
Yeah, this is really, really handy. Simple little tool. I could see using this a lot. I tend to use Evernote to actually kind of bookmark and save clippings for social media stats and things that I may want to use in an upcoming presentation. And so I'm always finding information like this, but a cool way to be able to send it straight to Evernote. So thank you so much, Chuck. We love tips like this.
Yes, more tips, just like Chuck. We will read them on the show. Email from Steve, and I had to go back to Pinterest because we've gotten more than a few of these emails from people who said, like what Steve said, I wonder if you could explain a little more about Pinterest, since I just don't have a clue what it does. I keep hearing about it, so it's the hot new thing. And one person made it sound like, is it like a shopping site? I looked through the site, and I don't see anything for sale, just photos. Some comments under the photos. Maybe is this something only women can appreciate? I don't see the point of it all. Also, I suspect most of the photos were copied from somewhere, so won't they get in trouble for copyright violations and sued out of existence? Thanks. So, Steve, I know you're not alone. I have heard this from men and women, by the way. I think Pinterest gets dubbed a woman's site because enough women have figured out how to use it for things that people equate with, I guess, women more than men, like cooking or weddings or design, that sort of thing. But it is certainly not any site that's more for women than men. It's more for people who like design aesthetics, the idea of keeping visual elements together in a scrapbooky sort of way, whether it's a picture of a cat, picture of nail polish, picture of a cool bowl of soup, some dog stuff, dog shaking. I mean, it's anything. There is no category that Pinterest fits under. It's however you want to make it. And as we've described on the show before, no wall will look the same because people are interested in different things. The comments that you've noticed, Steve, are other people commenting on that picture of the soup, for example. Oh, it looks like a great recipe, or liking that picture, or perhaps deciding to reshare it on their own wall. So Pinterest is, it's not a shopping site, and conceivably there's not a copyright issue because these pictures all have originating links. So if the links come from somewhere, it's not as if the pictures are being ripped off from anywhere. They're just being saved in a new place, not unlike the way Tumblr works, or linking to a photo on Twitter even, and so on. So that's Pinterest in a nutshell. It's you can search categories, you can follow specific people. It is extremely popular, but it's not for everybody. I'm not really using Pinterest regularly. Amber, I don't know if you've changed your mind since we talked about this last week.
Not really, which is, I want to, but I feel like it's not for me, I don't think. Maybe I'll change my mind and start using it more regularly, but I just haven't been able to. I just feel like I don't have time because I use so many other social networks, so I'm just not having the putting the effort into it right now.
Yeah. There is something, too, about Pinterest that it tends to overwhelm me. There are a lot of we're looking at something that's obviously animal-based, Pinterest right now. Chad went looking for dogs or something. Or, cute faces, that sort of thing. And, that looks like my cat. Okay, I'm getting it. Okay. Gosh, it almost could be. But, so we're looking at this, but there's something about the kind of mishmash of everything that I find overwhelming, almost like I have too much email to look through. It's like, I look at all of this and it's like, I just don't have time to spend on this because it's sort of it's like a scrapbook that I have to pay attention to, and I'm not much of a person who likes that sort of thing. It just depends on, I guess, the way you like to look at your visual information. There was a group Pinterest that I was invited to. It was created by somebody I don't even know. Chad, there's a link in the doc if you want to pull that up. But I could see this being pretty helpful. This was a group Pinterest that someone put together for South by Southwest. Now, I'm going to South by Southwest, the interactive portion of it anyway, in just a few days. So this is a group Pinterest where me and a bunch of other people can just add all sorts of information about the show, whether it's a link to a fun party that's going to happen on Friday night, what the forecast is going to be, a handy link to a South by Southwest guide, whether official or not, maps to various food trucks, all of that sort of stuff. The list goes on. This is actually, to me,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is where I kind of go, oh, okay, this is actually a Pinterest wall that I could really get behind because I can just read a bunch of stuff about this and just get a better idea of what to expect. And particularly if I hadn't been there before, I would have loved this my first year. Again, it's still kind of a mishmash of stuff that may or may not apply to you or appeal to you, but at least it can tie into to a particular event, something that you have to be paying attention to. So I kind of liked this. Another Pinterest-related website that I think is a really good indicator of when you have arrived is when you get a parody site. This particular one is called WTF Pinterest, and it reminds me a lot of Regretsy. For anybody who's familiar with Regretsy.com, which is a site dedicated to all of the things for sale at Etsy.com that maybe should have been thought through a little bit better. Just kind of weird stuff. WTF Pinterest, which is at WTFPinterest.com, is the same idea. The author, she was written up on the Daily Dot recently, and she kind of says, listen, there's not much to say about why I put this together. I like Pinterest. I spend a lot of time on Pinterest, and I keep finding weird stuff that people are pinning, and I don't know why. So she makes kind of funny little headlines out of it, and it's poking fun a little bit at the fact that Pinterest isn't always. We're looking at a bird disappearing into a chocolate. Oh dear. Yeah, that can't end well.
This is not going to make you want to go to Pinterest. I will just tell you when you go to WTF Pinterest. So for Steve, who's just wrote us that email, maybe you don't want to start here.
Right, exactly. But it's fun. It's like sometimes you just have to laugh at some of this stuff.
Wow.
Because...
Sarah, don't go down any further. Don't go. No. Okay.
Okay. All right. Wow.
It gets a little.
WTF. Pinterest. Yeah. So read at your own risk. But Pinterest is starting to spawn off these little sites that are kind of funny. So hey, you gotta laugh at people who are crocheting weird things and putting them on the internet sometimes. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right.
Moving on to our tweet of the week, Amber.
Our tweet of the week. It's very sad. We just, all of us by now have heard the news in terms of what happened in the Midwest after the tornadoes on Friday evening and into Saturday as well. I thought this was really interesting. I somehow stumbled across a site called tasteofcountry.com, and it had a list of country stars, particularly in Nashville, who were tweeting about tornadoes and sending out their love and trying to help people. So there were probably a dozen country stars on the list, including a tweet for our tweet of the week from Martina McBride, who says, any of my friends in Nashville who don't have a safe place or a basement are welcome to come to my house for real. And it was interesting. Martina McBride was actually tweeting not a lot, but a little bit during the tornadoes there and talking about what was happening. And I sort of got the feeling from this tweet, she was completely serious about looking to help people. And I think a really neat way to use the service during such a tragic time like this. So you can check that out on twit.tv if you want to check out the link to Taste of Country.
Absolutely. I was half joking about my earthquake experience this morning, which nobody was hurt. It was just one of those things that, woke me up for a few minutes. But all joking aside, when actual catastrophes happen, this is a perfect use of something like Twitter, not only to reach out to people, but actually offer legitimate support. And yeah, I get the impression too that Martina, maybe she's got some land, she can offer a safe place to stay, maybe some food type of a thing, and it's a nice thing for her to reach out in that way.
Yeah, very cool. So that's our tweet of the week.
I love it. I want to remind everybody that there are a million ways to get a hold of, well, not a million, but there are several really good ways to get a hold of us. The social hour at twit.tv is our email address. TSH at twit.tv works as well. If you prefer less characters. You can always leave us a voicemail. We haven't played a voicemail in a while. We'd like you to keep them to 30 seconds or less. I know that's a challenge, but you can do it. The Google voice number is 2626 SOCIAL. That spells social. 2626 social is our number. Call us up, leave us a message. We'll play it on the show. You can always record a video. You can upload it. Send us the link to the video. We'll try to play those as much as possible. And you can tweet us, Social Hour, #Social Hour on Twitter. We'll try to comb through as many of those every week as we can and try to feature more of your tweets in upcoming episodes. And of course, twit.tv/TSH is our website here at twit.tv, where you can have conversations on our episode pages as well. That's also where you'll find the links to past shows and subscribe to future ones. All right, Amber, before we get to your rat or fad, we want to thank Audible for sponsoring this episode of The Social Hour. Audible is the best way to find the biggest collection of audiobooks around. Over 100,000 titles. That is quite a few titles. So if you're not a fan of Audible yet, Audible is great because it is a way for you to read a lot of books that, if you're being honest with yourself, you're never going to have time to read otherwise. There's something, reading is a time commitment. We all know that. And especially since we're reading stuff online all the time, to be able to say, oh, I finished this, 500-page novel type of thing, that just is a commitment. I've gotten to the point now where the only times I really read are when I go on vacation. Well, that's ridiculous. I'm not just going to never read unless I go on vacation. What I can do, though, is listen to audiobooks when I'm commuting to and from work. That's the better part of 2 hours. When I'm at the gym, when I need to kind of focus on something, and I can't read because I'm running, but I can certainly listen to a book being read to me. There are different voices. Sometimes the authors participate in the audiobooks themselves. Sometimes it's somebody with a very soothing voice type of thing. At audiblepodcast.com/social hour, which is the website to go to if you want to go through us. You can look through a variety of categories. They make it really easy to just get a sense of what you have to choose from. Do you want a bestseller? Do you want something that's in the tech category? You want to laugh? Maybe you want one of your favorite comedians. You want to listen to their new book. I mean, that's almost the best example of a book that you'd rather listen to, really, because you like that person. You want to hear it. You want to hear it come straight from their mouth. Tina Fey, for example. I mean, I want her to read her book to me. I don't want to read it. So Audible is awesome. Audiblepodcast.com/social hour is the special URL to go to, because if you use our code, you can get a free audiobook of your choice just by signing up. So sign up for Audible and you get a free book. It's like a book. It's like you won that iTunes gift certificate and you get to have a free book. But you don't have to do anything. Just sign up, get a free book, decide if you like Audible or not, and then go forth in your new audiobook adventures. And we thank them so much for sponsoring this episode of our show.
All right,
Sarah.
Amber,
are you ready? Oh, I'm ready for this one.
Oh, yes. So this is our Rad or Fad for this week. It's a little quirky. I actually heard about this from a friend of mine, Karen, over the weekend. I didn't know a lot about it till I read this article on Mashable. The title of the article being QR Code Condoms Let You Check In Before You Get It On. Pretty catchy headline. Mm-hmm. When you read a little further, it turns out that Planned Parenthood of the Great Northwest has distributed more than 50,000 condoms in QR code wrappers to college students in the state of Washington. This happened a couple of weeks ago. The wrappers let people scan the QR code with their smartphone to check into the site wheredidyouwearit.com and anonymously let people know where they have practiced safe sex. The promotion, like I mentioned, launched in February, but the site is still live. The article says that Planned Parenthood said the site is like Foursquare for people who don't want a sexually transmitted infection. I would assume that is everybody. They didn't add that. Nonetheless, kind of an interesting use of QR codes, Sarah. I don't think I've seen anything like this before.
It's like Foursquare for people who don't want sexually transmitted diseases.
It's kind of, when you're saying that, it kind of assumes that people on Foursquare do want sexually transmitted diseases.
Well, yeah, my first reaction
I know they don't mean that.
It's like, well, maybe you just don't want them and you're also a private person. I don't know. I guess I don't have a problem with this.
No. I mean, nor do I. I mean, it's creative.
Less disease is better. Absolutely. And if it's anonymous, if it's truly anonymous, then that's also helpful. I don't know. Maybe some people care about anonymity in this sort of situation more than others. But I don't know. I mean, but then aren't you going to I just feel like this is the sort of thing where the message is great, but then people are going to be looking and saying, why did somebody check into this landfill dump outside of Petaluma? That's weird.
Sarah, I never even thought of that, but that's a good point.
Yeah. You might focus on the locations a little bit more than the message.
Yeah.
Hey, we're looking at San Francisco now. Chad, I don't know what that blue stuff is. I guess it's just because you're clicking into there. But, yeah, I mean, people are participating, absolutely. Right in my neighborhood, in fact. Good for them.
Yeah, so it's...
right here in the park. That must have been a nice day.
It seems like... I think it's a cool campaign in the sense that clearly, this is for a good cause and trying to encourage people to practice safe sex. I just don't see it being that sustainable. So as a one-off kind of catchy campaign, I think it's sort of rad, I guess. But I think it's sort of faddish in the sense that I don't know if people are going to continue to do this.
No, I don't see that happening either. I think it's kind of an interesting idea, but I don't see this being anything more than a fad. Unless, even then, this is just, it's a fad. I have to choose my words carefully because I'm thinking of people in the park and landfills.
Sarah, just yeah, I know. I don't know where the landfill thing comes in, Sarah. I'm not gonna lie.
You know what? Okay, I pass on my way to Petaluma to go to TWiT every day. There's a landfill right before you get into the Sonoma County border, And I always just like look over it and think, I wonder who works there. So that's why the landfill came to mind, because I was thinking, what would be sort of a random place for me to say right now? So I don't go to the landfill and participate in anything. I know it's there and I see it, and so I was just there like 45 minutes ago. So
you're just driving by, thinking about it. Yeah,
driving by the landfill, wondering what it would be like. No, so QR code condoms might be a big hit at South by Southwest.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think they launched it in Washington State, but maybe they're rolling it out in other parts of the U.S. Who knows? But yeah, it's interesting. We should have rad fad or just interesting, and maybe if it's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Very random.
Yeah, very random. And that, like I said, I think it's a great, it's a great message that they're trying to send out, particularly after, I don't know if you heard about that whole thing with Zac Efron dropping a condom on the red carpet, and Matt Lauer was like all uncomfortable asking him what happened. And, it shouldn't be that uncomfortable to talk about condoms. But yeah, I've never seen anything exactly like this before.
No.
Nonetheless.
This is
maybe a little fad.
It's a new arena for QR codes. So yeah, all right.
Who would have predicted, Sarah, when we were talking about QR codes being rad or fad and looking for interesting ideas many shows ago? Who would have predicted that it would get us to this point?
And it didn't even take that long either.
It didn't take that long.
Yeah, and it's not as if we're the first people to even hear about it. People are participating in the QR code condom revolution, even though it's a fad.
They sure are participating. That's a great word to use.
They are, enthusiastically. But it's for anyway. With that, yes. I think we're getting to the end of our show here, Amber. In fact, we're over an hour. We haven't done that in a while.
Wow. Yeah, it's been a while since we've done that. But yeah, lots of links to cover off. And if you guys have any opinions about what we talked about on the show, or anything that we should check out that could be rad or fad, definitely call, leave us a voicemail, or send us an email or a tweet using social hour as the hashtag.
Yes, absolutely. So next week, want to remind everybody, I will be in Austin for South by Southwest. So I'm going to be taking notes all weekend, and hopefully by our show on Monday, which will be at its regular time, I'll just be remote. I will have all sorts of cool stuff that I've seen over the weekend, Amber, and I'll definitely bring either any apps that I feel like have I don't know, gained in popularity, or if apps like Highlight have really been helpful or were not really as much. I'll try to bring as much of what I've seen on the ground to our show next week.
Perfect. I cannot wait. It should be lots of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Until then, have a great week, everybody. And thanks for joining us. Thanks to everybody who watched live. A reminder, we are at 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Eastern on Mondays. Try to catch us live if you can. But if you can't, don't worry. We're always on demand. Handy subscription links at twit.tv/TSH. where you can watch our show whenever you have a moment, or listen. We have audio links too. We want to make sure it's as easy for you as possible to watch or listen at your leisure. So until next week, goodbye. Thanks for watching.
Goodbye. Thanks for watching.